we have finally reached the biggest movie of the year, the finale in the entire Star Wars saga. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. We are finally here. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker focuses on the continuing adventures of Rey, Finn, and Poe, and they have to go do something. And it also focuses on Kylo, who investigates something. And that's all I'm going to say. Full disclosure, this is going to be a non-spoiler review of The Rise of Skywalker, so I will be doing a spoiler-filled review, and I'll be posting that later this weekend. But I'm going to try and be as vague as possible in this review so that I don't spoil the movie for anybody. Now, this movie is getting kind of a critical shellacking. It's getting a lot of mixed reviews from a lot of people. A lot of fans are really not sure what to expect, especially after how divided the fan base is after Episode 8, The Last Jedi, which is my personal favorite Star Wars movie. And I've seen a lot of fans also within the last few years say that The Force Awakens is just a rehash of A New Hope and that it's a remake. I don't buy that argument. So I'm really curious to see what fans are going to think of this. I knew it was inevitable in this sequel trilogy that one of these films was going to get the mixed reviews while the other two were getting all the critical acclaim. And it just so happens to be this one. So how did I feel about The Rise of Skywalker? Well, there were times in this movie where I was frustrated. There were times where I literally looked at the screen and I was like, what is that? Like, that's dumb. There's a lot of WTF moments in this movie. I do think this is the weakest of the sequel trilogy. But man, I had a blast with The Rise of Skywalker. I, as a Star Wars fan, as a huge Star Wars fan, I walked out of this movie satisfied. It's just a lot of fun. By calling this a bad movie, you would have to look at almost everything that goes into the filmmaking process. Technically, this movie, from a technical standpoint, is astounding. John Williams' score is amazing. It's one of my favorite Star Wars scores that I've ever heard, probably behind The Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, and I would say probably Empire as my favorite scores. This one's right behind those. The music just makes these movies come to life, you know? The music helps bring you into that world. The visual imagery and the planet's already domed, which, again, the visuals in this movie, astounding. There's no denying that the visual effects, the musical score, the costume design, which is top-notch. It's crazy. Production design, lots of great, lush, beautiful planets in this movie. They go to another sand place, so I was just like, we get a lot of sand planets. I'm kind of sick of the sand planets.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But it was pretty cool. It was a different type of sand planet. I was okay with that. Everything in this movie from a technical standpoint is amazing. And I think that that's why I was a bit more satisfied with this movie, because everybody was trashing this as if it's one of the worst Star Wars movies ever. And I sat there in the theater and I was thinking to myself, no way. Not with this big of a budget, not with these production values. If this were awful, all of these would be almost dead to me across the board. Nothing from a technical standpoint in this movie is horrible. And my issues with the movie really rely within the storytelling and some character decisions that they make. I think overall, within the script, there's more good than there is bad. As I said in the get-go, there is some big WTF moments. There's some things where it's just like, that's dumb. There's some things where it's frustrating, you know? They don't really fully explain a lot of things. Like, you just kind of have to roll with it. And then character decisions, there's really no thought to these decisions. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Okay, let's go do that. We gotta do this because that's the only thing we can do, but they really don't think about any of the other things they can do. So it's stuff like that where it just feels rushed. Honestly, this screenplay just feels rushed. It feels like they panicked after the divisiveness of The Last Jedi, and it feels like they made two movies in one here, because the first 30 to 40 minutes of this movie, everybody's saying is the most choppy part of the movie, which it is. I don't necessarily agree when everybody says it's super convoluted. It does have a lot going on in that chunk of the movie, but not as much as I really thought I was going to get. It's still easy to follow, even though it might seem a bit more complicated and convoluted than it usually is. I could still follow it. That's the thing. Looking at this movie, I just wanted to have some fun. I was like, if this at least offers some sort of emotional resonance to this actual saga as a whole and to these characters, I'll walk out satisfied. And there were times in this movie where I was fist pumping, where I was going, yes! Yeah, JJ, that's what I'm talking about. And then I was like, this is Star Wars. There's other times where I was rolling my eyes, be like, oh God, come on. So yes, within the screenplay, there are some decisions that this movie decides to make that don't make that much sense, that feel frustrating, that feel really stupid or dumb. But for the most part, I was satisfied. This movie has a grand scale. It builds itself up to be this grand epic finale, and I don't think it was ever going to be that in anybody's eyes. I think everybody was expecting a lot more because of how big the scale and scope of this movie is, and that's the grand finale of the entire Skywalker Saga. That's really not what happens with this movie. I feel as if this movie will satisfy people who jumped ship after Episode 8 and swore they were never going to see a Star Wars movie again, but it's obviously evident they're going to see this. I think it'll satisfy everybody who has a lot of criticisms about the sequel trilogy. The only problem here is that with how much is crammed into this movie, you can tell that they did not have an actual roadmap, and I think they admitted that after Episode 8 as to where this trilogy is going to go. You could just tell they were playing it movie by movie, because so much of that plot is just crammed into what if JJ did a second movie. If JJ had done a second movie, if he did this entire trilogy, that first half hour of the movie would have been the second movie. Instead, we get a JJ Abrams movie, a Rian Johnson movie, and then another JJ Abrams movie. So as much as I love The Last Jedi, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb now because it's Rian Johnson movie, but at the same time, again, satisfied. I wanted to see some stuff. I saw a lot of that. There's a lot of fan service, but I think it was done in a way that is satisfying. It's not great fan service, but it's not terrible fan service. It's satisfying. And I think that's the best thing I could say about this movie. I had a lot of fun with it, and I felt satisfied. That's all I really needed from this movie, to cap this trilogy off, to cap off the actual Skywalker Saga itself. I just needed to feel satisfied, and I walked out having a lot of fun with this movie and feeling satisfied. And I was very skeptical with those mixed reviews because I wasn't sure. There were a lot of people saying, nope, it's one of the worst ones. I was like, oh no. But I was satisfied. I'm going to give Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker a B. Probably the highest grade anybody's going to give this. I really, really did expect to put this in my top 10 of the year. Unfortunately, it's not going to make that. I am a bit disappointed that it's not going to make my top 10 of the year, but this is by no means a bad movie. Anybody who says it's a bad movie, this is my opinion, I think they're wrong. So that's just me. I walked out of this movie satisfied. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. Form your own opinion. Anybody else who says it's bad or anybody who says it's good and you're listening to them or reading their opinions, don't go in with a preconceived notion. Go in trying to expect a great movie and then make your own opinion after that. Guys, thank you for watching my review of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Sorry if this was very vague. I'm trying to avoid spoilers. I will have a spoiler review for The Rise of Skywalker coming very soon. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.